little younger than the girls as depicted in the story, but I certainly remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I remember 50 years ago, a few days from now, October 1962, and what that felt like, the feeling that the world really could end, like tomorrow morning. And I think that period, it's not really yet the 60s as we think of it. It's not the 60s of peace and love and flowers in your hair and sexual revolution. But it's not really anymore the 50s of we have survived the Second World War and we will build our nests and have life at any cost. It's a transition period. So to make a film about a transition, about things breaking down but not yet built up in an intimate setting and set that against what was happening globally felt to me a rich premise for feeling and showing the interconnectedness of the intimate world and the wider world.
And did you, I mean, I think you're someone of all of whose films are very personal films. Did you draw for this on people and on events, either from your own life or the lives of people you knew at that time, or was it more about trying to capture this psychological field that you were talking about the world ending, about, you know, what was going on in the culture at that time?
I kind of think all films are personal and all stories are personal, and if they're not, there's something wrong. But of course this was set in the period before the personal was political, existed as an idea even. But like any writer, I scavenged mercilessly in my own life, my own memories, my friends' memories, and most of all in my imagination in order to write it, but with an intention of being as personal and as raw and as intimate as I could dare to be, to explore what was at the core of the story.
And for Elle and for Alice, I'm wondering if you can each talk a little bit about how you became involved with the project, and also sort of how you transported yourselves into this period, which obviously, you know, existed many, many decades before either of you did in the world. So you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I remember meeting Sally, and I was 12 at the time, and I had blonde hair, and I came in and I had to do a couple scenes for her, and I had to do an English accent in the audition, which I had never done before, so I was very nervous, and especially Sally's English, so I was like, oh, she's, you know, I was worried she could be judging me, you know, on my accent. But when I met you, I feel like me and Sally have we have an intense relationship, to be honest. We, like, right when we met, we just, like, I feel like I couldn't let go, like we were sort of a part of each other in a way, and from that, sort of our relationship built, and a couple, well, I guess I turned 13 and dyed my hair red, and then we started filming, and we did a lot of rehearsals beforehand as well, just to get to know the characters extremely well. So when we went into filming, it would be, you know, you could try new things, and you would know how the character would react to different, you know, things that were thrown at you, just because you know the feeling. And also, we talked about sort of the 60s, because Sally sort of grew up in that time, and how there were like the beatniks and the different sort of different clubs of people in that era. And Sally said she was a beatnik, and they were the cool people who like listened to jazz music and wore the coats and the really skinny jeans. And so me and Alice were the cool group in the 60s, I think.
Sally taught us the slouch. Do you remember the slouch?
I remember the slouch.
Yes, I think that was a turning point in becoming the characters. I won't demonstrate it for you because I'm not good at it at all, but Elle is fabulous. I think, you know, it was the thing about, you know, doing a period film and being our age, it's really what prevails is always relationships. So I felt like that was the the center of it for us, and for understanding the time and the characters, and for where we were and all of it. And then the sort of context, you know, whose hair are you styling your hair like? You know, it was all, for me, it's always music and who you wanted to be. Not who she was, but who she wants to be. It's sort of, you know, we never want to be ourselves, really. We're always thinking about some other person's lives and traits. So I don't know.
And Alessandro, can you talk a little bit about the character of Roland and sort of how you understood the character? Because I think it would be very easy for this character to sort of appear to be the villain of the story, and yet I think he's much more complex, and I think that obviously that may have something to do with you not yourself thinking of the role as the villain of the story. Who was Roland to you as you approached the character?
Well, I think one of the things that makes it difficult to place him on the moral spectrum is that everything he says is right, and a lot of what he does is wrong. You know, I've said this before, but Sally put the words of truth in the mouth of an untrustworthy character, and it's always interesting to do that because it's unsettling for an audience, and they don't know how to respond to the character because on the one hand they agree with him, and on the other hand they find him deplorable. And so as far as the playing of it, I mean, that was what sort of interested me, just from a dispassionate point of view, having read the script to begin with and just thinking about the story and the prospect of playing the role. As far as actually playing it goes, yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that I was trying to keep in mind throughout it was just that he was somebody who had just total commitment to something and was uncompromising about it. And that the world was really black and white for him, that it was all or nothing. And it was either freedom or slavery, and there was nothing in between. And a lot of times with people who who see the world that way, they're capable of wreaking a lot of havoc.
I'm going to turn it over in a second to questions from the audience, but I just wanted to first ask you, Sally, if you could talk a little bit about your collaboration with the cinematographer Robbie Ryan on the look of the film, or what I was thinking, watching some of it again this morning, the looks of the film, because it feels to me like a film that has many different looks. It's a very impressionistic film, and there are things that are done very realistically, and then there are things that are almost nightmare images, like the bomb protest towards the end when Ginger is arrested, and other things that almost have a dreamlike quality to them.
I think if they have a dreamlike quality, it's rooted in the fact that some of those events really were like living nightmares, because everything is shot quite naturalistically and very directly, mostly handheld. And in the collaboration with Robbie, who's a wonderful cinematographer to collaborate with, we did a lot of work on the visual language before shooting. So I built up a big Bible of cinematographic and photographic references and did a lot of drawings, actually. But then gave him the space to be free and intimate with what he was seeing, and to follow his eye and to follow his instinct. And we had one principle and one principle only, which was that Ginger was the axis of every scene, and that we were seeing every event through her eyes. We were either looking at her or seeing or feeling what she was seeing or feeling. So that gave us a guiding principle, a very simple and straightforward one. And I didn't want...
Alice and I learned very early on in the shoot not to say anything to anybody who is in the other side of the room from L, because we knew that it would be the back of our heads.
Questions? Yes.